everybody. This video we're going to go over the Yura TLC Rotary attachment, and I'm going to go over pretty much the settings, how to set your roller, how to set it up in light burn, and get you burning some, etching some cups like these on the rotary, and then even ones like this, as well as being able to burn or etch into glass. I really want to touch on setting up your rotary. Once you set it up the correct way the first time, and all you should ever have to do is put in your dimensions. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the first thing that we're going to want to do is go ahead and connect up your rotary. I'm assuming at this point you already have it all put together, and we just need to connect it up. So I am going to switch the cameras here. And I'm going to show you what you're going to do is you're going to unplug your Y-axis motor mount, and in this case it is the right-hand motor. And on your control board, it is the plug. This is the original control board here, and the plug you're looking for is the one on the right. This is your Y mount, and you're probably going to notice when you unplug it that the red wire is to the right, and you're going to want to plug this with the red wire to the right the exact same way into the board. And if you have the new controller board, it's the same thing. You're just going to unplug the Y-axis motor cable, and you're going to plug this in. Just take note of where the red wire is attached. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug mine, or plug mine in rather. Let me see here. And okay. So now that we have it plugged in, I would recommend for this testing thing, I'm going to go ahead and unplug my laser before I turn my control board on. In this case, I happen to have the new 40 watt. I'm going to unplug the power to it. If you have the older unit, there is the power that you have up on top, and I would recommend just turning that power off, because we're not actually going to laser when we're setting this up. We're just going to try and make sure all our settings are correct, calibrate everything, and get ready for the actual burning of the cups. So in this instance, unplug your laser or just turn the power off to it, and let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to go over is when you put your unit together, you can see here, what I've done is, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Let me zoom in here for you. I want you to be able to see what I've done. So if you take, when you install this, what you got to do is, basically, I took you can use a whiteout, whatever you want to use, a little marker. I used a little paint on a toothpick and put it on the side of the roller. Do not put it on top of the roller, because that's where your cup's going to be on. And put a little bit on the side, and then put one on the back plate there, so that when we do our calibration of one full 360 turn, that you will see it's going to start and stop right at that same point. So I would definitely recommend doing that. You kind of need to somehow mark it. I used tape it first and did not like how that worked out, so definitely mark it with that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back, and we're going to go through some settings here. All right. Let me switch you back. Actually, before I do, I'll put this back so you can actually see the rotation here. And I'm going to switch you back. All right, now that we have the rotary plugged in, we've got our mark on our drive wheel. What we're going to do is we're going to go up to light burn, and we're going to go to tools and rotary setup. And the first thing you're going to want to do is change it. If it's on what you want it on is rotary, so if it's on chuck, we're going to change it to rotary, or roller rather. So we're going to put it on roller, enable rotary, and make sure that Y-axis is chosen. So in these settings, the two things we're going to focus on right now are the millimeters per rotation and your roller diameter. They're the two most important settings right now that has taken me forever, a lot of time to figure out exactly what they should be and why they should be that way. So the millimeters per rotation is mostly for the diode machines, like the 6550 and so forth. If you have a CO2, it might actually say steps per rotation. It really depends on the board, manufacturer of the board. But if you're on the 6550, most likely yours is millimeter per rotation. And so what the millimeter per rotation is, I'm going to switch you back over to the laser, and we're going to go through this real quick. The millimeters per rotation is how many times it takes this motor to spin, the millimeters, per rotation, to make this wheel, the drive wheel, do a complete 360. Not past it, not before. It has to be do a perfect 360. So what we need to do is tell the software how many millimeters per rotation it's going to be. And so there's a bunch of different ways to do it out there. And because if you're looking at, let me switch you, just show you real quick why this is a little bit different here. If you're looking at this here, so on the motor itself, you have some gears, and this is not your drive wheel. If your drive wheel was on the motor directly, that's a direct drive, and then it would have made this so much simpler. You just measure the diameter of this, you do your spin, and it's perfect, no problem at all. Because the gear is set up against this, it changes the equations quite a bit and changes how we have to do it. So what we're going to do is figure out how many times this has to turn to get this to do a full rotation, and then we're going to measure the diameter of this roller, and then that's it. Should be good for there. So in this case, what we're going to want to do is, I'm going to put you back on the laser. We're going to want to change your millimeters per rotation. I would say my perfect number is 145. So if you want for yours, everyone's different, let's just put in 150. And put in 150 in yours, and then we're going to click test. Well, we turn on the board first, make sure the board is turned on, and we're going to click test. And if you want to just watch me do it first, you're going to see that my wheel is hopefully going to go, well, obviously it's going to go around, but we're going to see where it lands at that. So click and test, and if you notice the white dot here, it actually went too far. Yours may go farther, may go less, and then it comes all the way back around. So I'm going to click test one more time and watch the wheel. And what we're looking for, the reason why we put the white dot on there is we want to match it up perfect with this here, and that is too far. So I'm actually going to lower it down. Yours, you may want to lower it by 5, depending on how far off it is, by 5, by 1, whatever. I know mine happens to be 145. And put your roller diameter at 1 for right now, which is fine. Mine, or 1.125 is fine. And then hit test again. And you're going to see now my 145 is pretty darn good. I actually probably could go 144. Let me try that. I actually think I'm going to change mine to 144. And hit tab and try it again. And I'm looking for it to come directly right there. That actually is pretty good. I'm going to leave it at 144. I think that's going to be my new number. So that is how many millimeters per rotation that it took for that wheel to go all the way around perfect. The roller diameter is the width of your roller. Again, I'm going to switch you back over to me, and it wants to know the width of the drive roller that your cup is going to be sitting on. So in this case, it happens to be 1.125. Whoops. We have a storm here. 1.125. When I actually move, as you can see, that's where my 1.125 is moving now. But and that is 28.59 millimeters as I move it there. But it wants another diameter. So if you have the same thing, odds are yours is the same thing as mine. So I'll put 1.125. And don't worry about the object diameter yet, the circumference. We're going to come back to that. So make sure all your settings are here correct. You're going to You could pause this video if you're still, tuning in your millimeters per rotation. You want one full, rotation, and make sure you're on Y-axis, enable rotary, and then just click OK. This enable rotary button here, if you do not have that on yours, go up to Edit, go down to Settings, and at the top here it says Show Rotary Enable in main window. So you're going to turn that on and click OK, and then it should show there. Okay, now that we have all of our rotary settings we think are correct, I want to show you how to dial them in a little bit tighter. It's really important that we take this little bit of time to dial in the settings. Once we get those two correct, then it will be perfect across the board for all the different cups you put on there and so forth. So I'm going to move you over to my laser and I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to recommend is if you turned your board on, I'm going to say to unplug your laser, or in this case, let me back this up for a minute here. If you have the power board on top, just turn that off. We don't need it on. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be testing the cup rotation now and fine-tuning it. I have mine turned off because we're going to be running this without the laser on a couple times for the cup. So let's get rolling here. Let's turn it around and get your rubber band. One of the things that I did was I took a rubber band, put it around my laser, and then I put a pencil in it for my marker. And I'll show you why in a minute. And I'm going to pick a test cup here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is we're going to want to mark, we need a diameter of the cup, and we're going to want to mark half the distance from one side to the other. I happen to make a jig for it. I printed it on my 3D printer, which you should get from our website, of course. That is a circle, and it has perfect 4 marks, so one here, directly across from each other. And I just put it on, and where that mark is, let me use this other mark here, I just mark it, and then just flip it over and mark it on that side. Makes my life easy. So that's our halfway points. And right now, so for every cup, all you're going to need to know, let me make sure this is set correctly here, is the diameter of your cup. So in this case, the diameter of this cup is, let's see here, 35 or 3.599. Actually, it's 3.6. I'm going to go with 3.6 inches. So in this case, the diameter of the cup, and this is important also, if you're going to be burning the cup or etching on the cup with it up here, the area that is going to be up against your wheel is the area that you want. So if it's here, you're going to want the diameter of this. If it's this way up against the drive wheel, well, you're going to want the diameter of this. In this case, I'm using the larger end, and so I need the diameter of the larger end. And so in your software, we are now going to go to Tools again and Rotary Setup, and you'll do this for all of your different things that you're going to etch on. You should never have to change your millimeter per rotation or your roller diameter again. The only thing you should ever have to do is come back in here and just tell the new object diameter of the new thing you're etching on. In this case, mine was 3.60. So that is my object diameter, and it automatically calculates the circumference for you. If you know the circumference and you put it in, it will automatically calculate your diameter for you. The easiest I've found is just the object diameter. So the one of the important things here is the circumference. We're going to want to know what half of the circumference is to know the halfway mark around the cup. But pretty much the only thing you need to measure right now is the cup to make sure you're positive. If you have one of these cups, you're obviously going to have a much larger object diameter, probably over 4 something, close to 5, 1.4 something. So this is really important as well. So our object diameter is 11.3097. Easiest way for me is to pull up the calculator and put in, 11.3097 divided by 2 is 5.65. So we're just going to keep that, I'm just going to minimize this for right now, but we're going to need that in a minute. So now let's click OK, and let's go back and set our tumbler up here. I'm going to push you out of the way for a minute, and pretty much what we're going to do is put the tumbler here in the roller, and we're going to do our adjustments here. Sorry, I got to move this for a minute, and I'm going to have to move this in. I got this little itty bitty leveler here to, oh, it's pretty darn good actually. Pretty close. You kind of want it as level as you can, because whenever you're burning on it, you don't want this one to be much lower away from your laser, because you're going to get a warped image there. So if it's not enough, pretty much you can raise your adjustments here up. If it's still not enough, you can take these two rollers and move them in a little bit, and you're going to want to put this not quite up against the front rail, but pretty close. I mean, like really, really close to it. Get back a little bit. And then move this back, same thing, almost on it. You just see a little space in there. And then tighten her down. Make sure everything's tightened down. And then you could put this tension bar inside the cup, outside the cup. I'm going to leave it outside the cup for these purposes here. I keep maneuvering it here. Put your rubber band on it to give it tension, and that's it. So now you've got this level. You've got it not touching the front and back plates. It can turn freely, and you have your laser unplugged. Let me move it back a little bit here. You've got your laser unplugged because we don't want the laser to come on when we're doing this. And pretty much what we want to do is we are going to test how good we did our settings. This white mark right here, what I had mentioned about halfway around the cup, is where we're going to move our laser over and put the pencil up to it. We're not going to touch the cup. We're just going to put it on it just so we can have a nice, perfect precision marking here. So when I move that cup, what we want to do, we're going to accomplish is make this cup spin halfway around and touch the other side right where that mark is. Or you can actually do a full 360, that's entirely up to you, but halfway mark is what I found to work the best for me. And then it's going to come all the way back right to here. So to do that, what we're going to do is, and I got this from my buddy Chris, who has really helped a lot with his video and showing us how to do some different burns. He has a CO2. And I saw him do this in his video, and I thought it was a great idea, so I'm stealing it from him, and I'm telling him that I'm stealing it from him, so here we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a 1 inch by this measurement right here, rectangle, and that's what we're going to use as our measuring block. So we're going to click on rectangle, and we're going to create a rectangle here, and if you go up top, we're going to unlock the box, and the width of it we're going to change to 1 inch, hit tab, and the height of it we're going to change to the 5.654. And you could just go through the first ones, but I'm going to do 5.654. So we're going to go 5.654 and hit tab. And I'm going to come over to the left here, click the arrow. Now I'm going to go back to my cuts layers, and I'm going to double click on that layer, click restore default, and click OK, just so we can get it back to default. Now the reason why we're doing this is because technically 5.654 is the exact halfway point from starting point, exact halfway around the cup. Now remember, the top of our cup is right here. Here's where the roller is, here's where the cup is. So we're going to spin it, and this should go exactly around. And in case I lost you, how we came to this is, if you go to Tools, Rotary Setup, the object diameter is 3.6 inches of our cup. So that made the circumference 11.3097 inches. And we just pretty much divided this in half, so technically that should be half of our circumference, correct? And that's pretty much it. And then we just made it this big here. So if we tell the rotary right now to run, it should put a fake line here. The pencil is going to run right on this white mark, and it's going to spin the cup around to the other side, and it's going to hopefully hit the other mark. If it does not, and it may not on yours, I'm going to show you how to dial it in just a little bit better. But once you get this precision, you never have to change the other two settings again. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is, when you're doing with the laser, what's important is, over here you're going to want your start from the current position. I use user origin from other stuff, but for this, for the cups, we want it to start at current position, which is right where it's at right now. And if you notice over here, the green dot is in the center of my, what do you want to call it? My burn, whatever it's going to be. And if I say go, it's actually going to turn the cup a quarter of the way. And it actually thinks it's actually going to turn it a quarter of the way, start there, and then go around. And for this testing purposes, we don't want to do that, because I want it to start right where I have it set right now if you're looking at my rotary. And so to do that, we're going to come over to Job Origin and choose the bottom part of it. So the green dot is exactly where the laser is going to start. It thinks it's, that's just simply where it's going to start. And what we want to do is just run right here, rotate half of the cup, go across there, and then come back around. Now, let's move up to the layer, double click on the layer. We definitely don't want speed of 236. Let's just change it to 50. And for the power, let's just hit 1 for now, because even though we have it unplugged, you don't want to have your power on right now, because we're just testing the cup. And then click OK. If you have to have your power on, leave it on 1%, or I wouldn't do it myself. But all right, technically this should be good to go. We have reviewed all of our dimensions. We did our millimeters per steps, or per rotation. We've got the start from as current position. Job origin is the bottom middle. And we should technically be able to go. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start, and let's see what happens. You can see my laser here. So what I'm looking for is this to rotate all the way around to the next white mark. And it did not go that far. So actually I have a setting off somewhere, and I'm going to show you that. Yeah. Now, if yours did not go that far and you need to do any type of adjustments, I would recommend only adjusting. If you come here, our Tools Rotary Setup, we know the millimeter per rotation is perfect. So we're going to leave that. Let's change the roller diameter. So in my case, I'm going to choose 1.13. And then hit Tab. And I'm going to leave all the rest of this the same. And then click OK. Let's confirm this is correct. 5.654. 5.654, that is half of the circumference. And we're going to minimize that. So now that I changed my rotary a little bit, let's try this again. And this is, you're going to pretty much just do the same thing. And we're going to change the rotary until it comes perfect. So we're going to click start, and we're going to run it again. Guess we could have sped it up, huh? I'm still shy of the wheel. So I'm going to go back to Tools, Rotary Setup, and hit, come to the here, and I'm going to choose, I'm actually going to put 1.2. So I thought it was 1.25. And then I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to do it again. And this is how you're dialing in. These steps that we're doing are very important. Once we're done calibrating this, you should not have to calibrate it again. Now I'm really short. See how much shorter I am now. So I've went too much now. I want to actually lower it. So we're going to go back to Tools, Rotary Setup, and I'm going to change it to 1.1 because I think I'm going the wrong direction. I think I'm going up and I should be going down. So I'll change it to 1.1 and I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to click Start again. Should change my speed up a little bit here. I'll change it on the next one. That's pretty darn close. That's really good. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to come back to my software. I'm going to change this up to 60. You never want to spin the cups too fast anyway, but you're going to wind up having to go definitely slower for when you're burning, but just for testing. So I want to show you now I'm pretty sure I got mine pretty close. I'm going to move my pencil down a little bit lower just so I can definitely see where I'm at here. And I'm going to test it one more time. Click Start. That's a little bit faster. That's pretty smack on. I have to say, I'm happy with that. Yeah. Now, I can't stress enough, I'm going to go back to Tools and Rotary Setup. And the whole point of this video is to get you to dial in your top two settings here. This is so important. So I thought it was 145, but my best now is 144 and millimeters per rotation and 1.1 roller diameter. Those two settings I will never change again. The only set I'm going to come in here and change is the object diameter based on whatever it is that I'm burning, and that part has to go up against the roller. And then you're just going to write down your circumference, which if you want it. I'm going to click OK. And only other thing I want you to look at real quick is if you notice when I push mine to go, I can see a little bit of air gap here and a little bit of air gap here, because you don't want it rubbing up against your back plate or the back part here. And actually mine's not even perfect here. I'm going to actually move it a little bit. Because you don't want it to drag and the wheels skip, and if you find that it's actually skipping, you can actually make the tension roller a little bit tighter. But I'm going to just test it one more time here. I want to be 100% sure because these are my settings forever. Yes, I'm perfectly happy with that. All right, now that we have those settings in, pretty much all we gotta do now is burn something. All right, I'm going to, first thing we want to do is turn your board off and turn your laser back on, take your pencil off, your rubber band off. We're going to plug the laser back in, and we can leave this couple in here for now. That's perfectly fine, however we want to do it at. We're going to move this down, come over. And I was in the misconception that you had to measure wherever the diameter is that you're burning. If you do it this method, it does not matter. You only need to know the top part that's up against the roller, and that's it. The rest of it doesn't matter where you burn it on the cup, it's going to line it up. The Lightburn does all the mathematical stuff for you. So now that we have this here, our little square here, our little rectangle, that is our marking halfway point. With any of the lasering that you do, I definitely recommend buying an extra cup. I got one cup of them actually that I've done. This one was the stainless steel cheapie that I got, that I spray painted, And as you can see, I did tests on it, and then you can clean it off and spray paint it again, because it doesn't really hurt the stainless steel, because it doesn't burn on the stainless steel unless you have a different stuff on there. So definitely recommend getting something like this. This, unfortunately, I went with first, but you know, it's worth $6-7 to mess these up and keep practicing, then keep messing up new ones. So let's just say we take, this is the actual cup that's in there now, and basically what I've done is just put marks on it. You could do different colors to help you with markings or whatever. And what you kind of want to do is, you see I have mark here and mark here. Let's just say that's halfway point. If you want to have a name on this side and something on this side, this method that my buddy Chris showed us is perfect for that. Basically, what he's done is he has given you the center point right here of one half the cup and the center point of the other half the cup. So all you got to do is put your image halfway through there. So for example, if I take, and I'm just going to put here a name, I'm just going to put Tony. And I'm going to click the arrow, and I'm actually going to move this to a different layer. I'm going to hit 1. And then this particular name, I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And my height is 2 inches. So if you're looking at your cup, I use one of these here, my little thing I got here, and kind of see 2 inches roughly how far around 2 inches is going to bring it. The circumference wise, it's not going to be very much, you know, kind of small. The other Tony I have here is, that one, this Tony here is actually 2.5 inches. So if we did 2.5 inches, hypothetically, what we're going to do is come to the name Tony. We're going to lock it because we want to keep the proportion the same. And we're going to change the height to 2.5. So that's technically going to be 2.5 inches, and it's going to look just like that. Now, what you do is you just take this and click it in the middle, or click it and then come in the middle, drag, and it'll snap right onto the center of that. And so if you could see it kind of snapping onto it. So now I know this image, name, font, whatever I want here, whatever it is dead center in half of that cup. So it's going to be right there. So hypothetically, if that said Emily, actually, let me just show you this real quick here. Hold on. If I do, let me just show you here. Emily, and I'm going to change to, let's see. Guess it really doesn't matter here. Trying to find real quick her favorite font. Of course I can't find it. We'll just keep it that one. It's fine. I'm going to click it here. I'm going to change it 90 degrees. And I actually want to get it bold. I want it bolder. And I'm going to make it 2.5 because I like that height. And then I'm going to grab it and I'm going to drag it till it snaps in the middle there. So that is halfway around the cup. Now I have a SVG here. I'm going to drag in. And I'm actually going to keep that selected. I'm going to group it. And I'm going to change it to a layer also. And I'm definitely going to shrink it, but let me rotate it 90 degrees. And I'm going to bring it down to 2.5 inches. Make sure it's locked too, by the way. 2.5. So now that I have it at 2.5 inches, I'm going to grab it. And it snaps right into place right here. I'm actually going to make them a little bit bigger because they're not very big. I'm going to look at the size of this one real quick. Oh yeah, hers is 3.5. Let's see here. I just kind of do kind of a measure. It's actually 3.5. So those are 3.5. So let me change these to 3.5. Let's see, 3.5. And then click this one and go 3.5, and now I'm halfway around. I'm not sure I want this bold now. Yeah, I do. All right. So as you can see, we now have Emily is going to be dead center half of this, half of the cup, and so is But First Coffee. So if you're looking at it, it's going to be exactly like this halfway around. If you only wanted just one side of it, you would just delete everything else out. Now that we have this, let me explain something that's going to be a little confusion. If you don't care where it winds up on the cup, so I have these solid white cups, and it kind of really doesn't matter where it's going to wind up at. But if you have one like an Ozark or whatever with a logo on it, or a Yeti cup, it's going to be a little bit different of where it's going to start. So that's really important. If you look on my screen here, it thinks now the first place it's going to start is the bottom of But First Coffee. So keep in mind that if we tell it to go to the center, it's actually going to, if you're looking at that, if you're looking at this cup, where's it going to start? It's going to start between the two. So it's going to, we're telling it to start right here. So it's going to turn and put it here. So it's going to be kind of hard to line it up. So in this case, easiest thing to do is just choose, like, if you choose the bottom part, kind of figure out where you want that at. If you want to get this specifically lined up, you probably will be best to remove, let's just say, these two pieces. And it doesn't help hiding them or turning them off, because even if you turn them off, if you notice light burn, if you say up top, you see how it puts the dot up top here, light burn still knows they're on there, and for whatever reason it doesn't ignore them even though you turn them off, which it should. So keep that in mind. That catches me off guard a lot of times. So if you actually turn them back on and you delete them instead, you'll notice now the green dot where it's going to start is at the top of there, the bottom, or dead center. And in this case, I would actually, if I want this first logo specifically where I want it at, like if it's over top of something else, you're going to want to just do it by itself and put your laser right where you want it to start, and that's where it's going to start, dead center of that. And that's where it will go. So in this case, if you want, we can actually burn this here. What we're going to want to do is, I want to tell it to start dead center. Let me switch over. I'm going to tell it to start dead center. And we are going to line up my laser dead center of where I want that at. And in this case, I'm actually going to come right to there, over there a little bit here. And you're also going to want to make sure that go on your y-axis here, it's there. And you're going to, if you have a 40 watt, like I have, you're going to want to lower it down to the correct setting. And if you have the other ones, the manual focus, you're going to want to dial that in until it's right where you want it at. And that's pretty much it. So it's actually going to start right there because that's a dead center of the logo. Now what we can do is go ahead and burn this. And first we're going to turn our machine on. Do that. Now your laser should come on. If you have everything back on, it should come on fine. And let's go ahead and burn it. Well, also, I guess while I'm here, is the settings. The speed, 45 is a pretty good speed that I like, works good for me. My max power is 55. I think I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna lower it. I'm not sure if it's too high or too low. I've been burning pretty well with it. So I'm just going to leave it. So 45, 55, and I have the 40 watt. So if you have the 15 watt or the 5.5 or the 3 watt, you may have to jump your power up a lot higher and run it a little bit slower. Again, that's the whole purpose for me having this cup right here. This one wasn't burnt enough. This one was burnt way too much. I was actually etching in the aluminum there. This one's not enough. This one was perfect, and I believe this one was my 55. And I actually what I'm going to start doing is, instead of putting a T, I'm actually going to start putting 55, whatever it is. Instead of Tony, I'm actually going to start putting 55, 45, whatever the power is, so I'll know. So that's where you live and learn. I like to turn on the overscanning, especially if you're doing just fill. I haven't found the fill in line being needed for this. It just takes up more time. If you do fill, I like the overscanning because then it goes a little bit past it and allows it to come back. My lines per inch, 285 seems to be where I kind of like. It fills in pretty good. And again, these all you can adjust. The overscanning just has the laser go past it a little bit to come back. And that's pretty much it. So we'll click OK, and let's go ahead and get started burning. Alright, let's see how we did here. Move this out of the way. And let me get my cleaner. I normally use a little bit of alcohol. Came out pretty good. Let's see here. Careful spraying around the laser. For you to see. And this is what we burnt here, or etched. Came out pretty good. Clean it a little bit better. Yeah, I like that. I actually might lower my power a little bit, but pretty much that's what we're doing. As you can see, it's proportion perfect. The length of it and everything looks good. So that's pretty much it. If you make sure you have your settings correct, again, I know I keep saying this like a broken record, but I can't say enough. Your millimeter per rotation is so important. And then the roller diameter, what you will use to just kind of dial everything in and make sure it's perfect. And now, if I'm going to do another cup, for example, real quick here, I'm going to, like I burnt onto this one. I just need to know this diameter right here, and I didn't even burn anything on the back. I just did the logo on the front and done. Put in my object diameter, do my logo, and burn away. So that's pretty much it. I hope everybody took at least something away from this, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And happy tumbler cutting and glass etching.
Jungle.